Hey everybody, Crypto Mentor 99. It is June 26, 2018 in my part of the world. It's dinner time and here he is. I have the honor and privilege of having David Freuden, XFin advisor, entrepreneur, and investor. David, it's good to see you, man.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for inviting me to your part of the world. It's great.
Oh, well, I've seen you so much on Telegram and Twitter, and it seems like lately, um, I don't want to say your following has increased, but it seems like you're more and more in demand. Is that true? I mean,
Um, I don't pay too much attention whether who's following on Twitter, but I'm definitely getting invited to speak a lot more and to have a lot more meetings and be a lot more involved in regards to talking about crypto, talking about hybrid blockchain, talking about XinFin. So definitely building up some momentum.
yeah.
I think a lot of that's come from the article I wrote a few weeks ago on hybrid blockchain. I think that was a big penny drop for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's good. We talked a little bit in the pre-interview, and I wanted to do the same thing with you, David, that I did with Chris Neal when I interviewed him. I wanted people to be able to see you, hear you, frankly, get a feel for the type of person you are. And could you tell us a little bit just about growing up as a young boy and what your interests were and, stuff like that?
Wow. Okay. So really bad at school and dyslexic. So I used to be a professional skier. I represented Australia as a freestyle skier and mogul skier. So straight out of school, I was a ski bum for 8 years, traveling the world, competing, carrying the flag, doing all that. And then after my ski career, I went into business. I feel like I started life late. I didn't do the college university route.
Sure.
So I just naturally became an entrepreneur because I didn't know any other way. I felt like I was unemployable. So I just started creating businesses. So I've had a lot of different businesses. I've started 9. I've been able to sell 5. I always reinvent myself every 5 years when I exit. I take a year off, sometimes 2. I relearn a different industry altogether because I like to learn. Very passionate about learning.
Wow.
And go into another industry totally. And it was probably about 7, almost 10 years ago, I started getting into technology.
Whoa.
More so, not as a coder or anything. I'm not that smart. I'm a business head. I'm good with people and building businesses. But I use technology to enable businesses. So I look at a business and I go, how can technology be the lever that helps this business go 10x? How can I use it to take away the grunt work and the invisible work so that the customer experience can be better without all the hard processes? And technology is great for that.
Wow.
So I got involved in tech, from building mobile apps to building over 30 websites. I've got an online business now still. So always involved in that space.
Wow.
And then that naturally evolved into a lot of business advisory work. I sold my last business 4 years ago, and since then I usually work as a business advisor and a business coach to startups, tech startups, scale-ups, which are companies that are starting to hockey stick.
Wow.
And that's just naturally gone into crypto because to me it's the evolution of technology. So I got very interested in blockchain because it's an evolution of technology. And that's how I went from my background from ski bum into what I'm doing now. Still a passionate skier, big time.
Nice.
Done all that.
Well, you've kind of answered my next question a little bit. So tell us maybe the timeline of your, like what year that maybe you started to get an interest, a desire, a passion in the cryptocurrencies.
Okay, so that would have been 2 Decembers ago, living in Barcelona. I was living in Europe for 2 years as a monolinguist, which makes me pretty much unemployable. And I was looking at what can I do with my brain because I was having time out. And I naturally fell into researching what's coming up in tech, and that's where blockchain came across my radar.
Wow.
And I started to first get involved, that was 2014, I think, 15? Yeah, 14. And then it wasn't until about a year and a half ago I started to get active and start to become an investor and start looking at projects and start learning about what is actually being invented for the sake of being technology, and what actually has a proper user case with a proper customer, and trying to understand those differences.
Okay, I saw something about you either in an article or on the XinFin website. I can't remember where, but did you get in as a token holder, for lack of a better word? Did you see XinFin not as an advisor, but did you start investing in XinFin like the summer of 2017, like June, July?
Yeah, I was an investor about 6 months before I became an advisor. And one of my good or bad traits is when I'm interested in a project, I become a nuisance to the management of the project. I think I can add value in business. So I started dialoguing with them quite regularly, to the point where when I went to Singapore for the Blockchain Economic Forum, I made a point to meet with XinFin, and I was lucky enough to meet with Karan. It was after that we spoke about coming on board as an advisor, because I was already a very active and vocal investor, and helping contribute and add value as much as I can. I think it's important to add value. A lot of people just talk, but are you actually adding value?
Yeah, you bet.
And adding value is great. Everyone's got 2 ears, 1 mouth. Unfortunately, people sometimes talk, but they're not adding value, they're just voicing.
Sure.
We all do that.
So, again, just round figures. So, summer of 2017, you became an investor, give or take. And then was it the end of 2017 that you were an official advisor to XinFin?
I think official was probably around January, February of this year.
Okay.
So I was involved for probably 5 or 6 months before. So yeah, quite early. What attracted me to XinFin was 2 things. One was the whole premise behind hybrid blockchain. And that's why I wrote the article about hybrid blockchain, because a lot of people, they just think blockchain and they go, why aren't businesses using blockchain? And I look at it going, well, it depends on the business, and it depends on the business case. And when I started researching XinFin, it wasn't about that they're building hybrid blockchain, it's why were they doing it and for who? And that was the part that was most important for me. And the problems they're going to solve, I see most private blockchains morphing into a hybrid, much more so than public ones becoming hybrid. And that's because the customers and the profile of people who will use private, which are banks and governments predominantly, and large, highly regulated multinationals, they need a private blockchain just because legally they have to, as well as commercially and operationally. But they also want the benefits of blockchain, of public blockchain, which is, how do I make the record immutable so it can't be changed? And the only way you can really do that is through decentralized verification. So that's what got me into XinFin, knowing who their users are, and they're building a blockchain specifically to solve that problem, where heaps of other projects I researched were just building blockchain. I didn't know who their customers were. I didn't get the business case. Okay.
And for those of you that have no idea what David just said, no. He made reference to an article that I have here that we talked about, the pre-interview, and I'm going to put it in the description box below, but David wrote this June the 3rd, and it talks about hybrid blockchain, and this is 7 pages, and I've read this and reread it, and that's what David was just, in part, you were referring to, right?
Yeah, in part to that, and really, before I wrote that, because I didn't write that until I had the opportunity to meet Dr. Scott Stornetta, who was him and his partner, Stuart Harbour, actually invented the precursor to blockchain. So I didn't get I need to write about this moment until that opportunity to hear him present. But it was still the same premise of why I chose to get involved with XinFin. Nice product promotion. Well done. Product placement.
Just, I'm choking. Just today, I don't want to get up and get it. My office is straight ahead. I bought a 2 foot by 2 foot XinFin poster. I had it made. And
Nice.
I put it up against the wall here and it fell off right before the interview. I'm like, forget it. I'm not going to. I'll talk to my wife about that and we'll get something straightened out, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But David, in the pre-interview, and again, this is something that's really been an interest to me, so I'm going to ask a selfish question. What can you tell us, or well, you probably know a whole lot more than what you could probably say. What do you want to tell us, or what would you like the viewers to know about TradeFinix?
Okay. So I'm a massive fan of TradeFinix and what the problem it's trying to solve. Like in a nutshell, it's really helping. It's like the Venn diagram. You've got government who need infrastructure within a country. You've got the people who build that infrastructure, and then you've got the need to finance that infrastructure. I'm a massive fan of it because it's very hard to find the funds to do that. And I'm going to be writing an article just on TradeFinix itself, and more than happy to come back and do an interview in the near future on just TradeFinix. It's a really, really big problem it's solving. What I can tell you to date is there's been quite a lot of meetings with different governments. There's been pilots with governments and with suppliers, and no one does a pilot unless there's significant interest, because a pilot costs a lot of money, but worse than money, it costs resources. You have to take a human being or several of them off their project, or 20%, 50% of their time, and allocate them to a new project. To do a pilot for a government or a company is a massive investment. So it's the first step towards that journey. So TradeFinix, I'm really bullish on as a long-term global solution, because financing infrastructure is really hard. I'll share a very quick story on that for you. In Australia, we've got this beautiful thing here. Other than sharks, we have another monument, the Sydney Opera House. Very famous, beautiful building, built a long time ago. To raise the money to build it back then, we didn't really have access to banks as much. Australia was still a first world, but the sophistication of accessing finance for infrastructure was quite infant. So governments paid for everything, but the government didn't have the money. So the way the government raised money is they launched the Opera House lottery. And over 30 years, the Australian government raised $107 million through a lottery to pay for the Opera House.
Wow.
So that's how we pay for infrastructure, is a lottery. In the UK, they have a heritage lottery that's raised $7 billion just to pay for heritage projects. But there's a lot of countries that don't have that surplus capital to even run a lottery in their country. They don't have sophisticated banking, or there's too many intermediaries that make it really expensive. So TradeFinix will solve all of that. And I'll go into writing an in-depth article about that in the next few weeks, and happy to come back and have a chat about that.
Oh, that's great, David.
But that's a snapshot.
Okay, so again, another selfish question that I want to know. I don't know about anybody else here. Again, you don't need to mention any names, and again, we did not talk about this in the pre-interview. Would you say that XinFin, what would you call it, has like first mover advantage as far as TradeFinix and working with governments and stuff, or no?
I don't really understand in a global market what first mover advantage really means.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is you either have your clients that you're talking to, or they're not a client. So it doesn't matter how sophisticated XinFin's technology may be. If a government doesn't have a user case for it, it's irrelevant.
Okay, sure.
And XinFin can't service 100% of the world, nor can any blockchain. So in regards to XinFin, have a very clear mandate of what they want to achieve with TradeFinix, and also with supply logistics with Ramco.
Yeah.
That they don't need to talk to every supply logistics company. They would need probably 100,000 staff just for meetings. It's not their purpose to be a global dominator, but to provide the best solutions to some significant corporations. And over time, it will roll out. So first mover in hybrid blockchain, absolutely. Where is that most relevant? To the clients they're talking to.
You bet. Okay.
And that's
Thank
what
you.
I love about it. They know their clients.
Yeah, I didn't say this earlier, but when I meet people from Australia, I feel like they're kind of like family because years ago I have a daughter that did an internship in Melbourne at the Royal Children's Hospital.
Oh,
And
cool.
she was married at the time. Well, I mean, she's still married, but she went over there as a newlywed with her new husband, and they stayed there a year. And I forgot to tell you that during the
That's
pre-interview.
great.
So anyhow, so when I
That's
see someone from Australia, I'm like, "Hey, brother, how you doing?" You know.
You got to invite. Yeah, we have a saying back here, which is, I saw the fridge light on, I thought I'd pop in. We just love coming in for a meal. It's awesome.
Oh, that's good. So, David, what would you tell someone that maybe has a month or 2 months or 6 months understanding of XinFin and some of the advisors and stuff? What would you have them say, or what would you like people to know? And you could answer this however you want. What would you like new people or people that have been in the space a while to know about XinFin? Like, what would you say?
Good question.
Hey, I like XinFin because, or I have a passion for XinFin because.
Okay. For XinFin, but also the same questions to ask with every project. Who are the customers and what are their user case? If the project doesn't address that specifically, then and they can't articulate that, then I always get worried about the project. What I love about the XinFin is they're an enterprise-ready blockchain, which means they're catering specifically to highly regulated industries that actually need a private network, or they'll never go into blockchain. A bank is not going to jump on the public blockchain. And even if they wanted to and they don't, the blockchain is not ready for them in a public environment. It doesn't have the speed or the scalability. So what I love about XinFin and hybrid blockchain is it solves that really important puzzle of, can I have a private network to run everything I need to run, but also tap into the biggest benefit of public blockchain, which is immutability? How can I get the benefit of making sure my data won't be changed?
Yeah.
How can I use decentralized verification and a timestamp to know that that data is there forever? And that's the biggest benefit of XinFin and hybrid blockchain, specifically for those already on private blockchain that need to add those elements. And in the article, I referenced some quotes from the CTO of Ripple.
Yes.
And, they even acknowledge where that's going. Even just today in the media, R3, the consortium, which is built by 70 banks, have acknowledged that they're now looking at creating a token within their environment.
Wow.
And the only reason you need a token is to incentivize decentralized verification. That's the mechanics, or one of the mechanics for a token. There's several others, but that's its primary. So I see a lot of private moving towards hybrid to benefit, and that's one of the reasons I really love XinFin, and that's because they know who their clients are, highly regulated, financial institutions, government. TradeFinex will help a lot of business access money, not just massive government projects that cost $500 million and $100 million, but also smaller ones, lots of power plants, lots of $10, $20 million spends. And they launched TradeFinex with the Ashcom Association of Commerce in India. And that's a big deal. Like, that's a ridiculously big deal.
Yes.
That's 45,000 companies that can't get access to normal funding because they're a business and they're regional, who need access. And by launching TradeFinex to that market, that's like micro loans on steroids, because it's not that micro. And it's one of the core reasons they needed to list an exchange in India, to be able to facilitate taking in Indian currency into the network to manage TradeFinex for the association of the Chamber of Commerce in India. It's brilliant the way they've done that. And I know a lot of people think when Binance, it's the wrong question. It's why Binance, not when. Why do they do this exchange? Why do they do this exchange? It opens up new markets where, as a business, they can take customers. It's not about secondary market movement.
Wow.
Sorry, a bit of a distraction.
No. That's awesome. No, that's good. So I guess I'm kind of asking this. I guess on my YouTube channel, I tell people, don't worry about the price. Don't look at the price. Stop going to CoinMarketCap and refreshing your browser. You got to believe in the project that you've invested in. So I kind of have my investor hat on, which maybe I shouldn't. So what I'm hearing you say, without putting words in your mouth, it seems like XinFin's kind of positioned correctly to move into the future, if I could say that, or
look, XinFin's a business. It's not a cryptocurrency. It's a business that is in the blockchain space. There are 1,600 blockchain projects out there, and only a handful that are actually a business.
Yeah.
And as a business, they need to go, what is best for the business commercial decision-wise, not about just worrying about the secondary market. And if you look at every share market in the world, and I love the fact that you're right, there's a lot of people with the coin market cap addiction. Most people only get paid once a month, so they look in their bank account once a month and make sure the money's there. With an investment, you should look maybe every 3 months.
Yeah.
It's great that you're an active investor like myself, and a lot of your followers are active investors, which is great. But watching a kettle boil is just frustrating and doesn't get you on the journey. Where will XinFin be in a year or two from now? In price, rather than give you the price number, which I never will, how many people will be using XinFin from now? Who are those people?
Yeah.
And what is their user case? Well, if governments are using XinFin to finance $500 million hospital, $500 million hospital, how much trading volume is needed to do that? If hundreds and hundreds of people are running businesses through small countries using Trade Connects to finance that, what does that look like? How many people are you partnering with Ramco and XinFin to supply logistics that are literally multi-billion-dollar businesses? What does that look like? They're the questions you need to look at, and that will result in a movement in price.
Yeah.
If you just look at price, it's the wrong discussion.
Right. No, that's good. Yeah. I thought during the pre-interview, and maybe we'll kind of end or start to land the plane here, you were talking about like the advisors, because I know that, you're on the team obviously since January or February of this year. You gave just a really great, kind of like a word picture, how the advisors are kind of like an orchestra and everybody does something different, but yet when everybody plays their instrument, there's that, you didn't say this part, David, but like a sweet melody that people hear. So everybody, all the advisors, I guess my question's turning into a statement. The advisor's best time is not spent on Twitter and Telegram telling the whole world how many followers they have. It's the meetings on the phone, on Skype, behind closed doors, that the average person's not going to hear about on Telegram or YouTube, right?
Pretty much. I mean, just because you haven't heard about it doesn't mean something hasn't happened that's significant. And if you would rather hear about it, then we've got the wrong advisor. If you've got an advisor on board that's just tweeting stuff, that's an influencer.
Yeah.
An advisor's going to help do business. And XinFin's a significant business. Doing business with government's not going to happen by having an influencer. With the exception of Kim Kardashian, you can get to your president. Really impressive, crazy. But really, it's, all the advisors have ridiculously different and highly tuned skill sets, and they're able to offer massive benefit in different areas. I know that the community would love them to tweet constantly how good it is. That's not going to help XinFin achieve its goals commercially, which in return will make everybody very financially better off on the journey of XinFin. And it's about the longevity of the business and getting more and more business along the way. And that's really their best asset and their best use of time. And that's why they don't spend time tweeting about it. That's not really what they're there for.
Well, sometimes I go on the XinFin trading channel on Telegram, and I mean, God bless these guys. They're like, oh, let's go over here and trade. And I said, guys, you're you have to be smarter than I am, because normally when I trade, I buy low and sell high, you know, and I'm just like, I'm not going to do it with cryptocurrencies. I'm going to buy them, dollar cost averaging, forget about it. And again, to everybody on XinFin, on the trading Telegram channel, I'm not dissing you. I'm just saying you're a lot smarter than I am, because I can't do that with XinFin.
Look, I'm going to disagree with you here. It doesn't mean they're a lot smarter than you. You've definitely got some gravitas happening.
Sure.
It's awesome. Look, some cryptos, just like some shares, are tradable, and others are long-term holds because there's actually an underlying business to them. There are shares I hold that I've had for 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
There are shares I've held for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's fine. XinFin is not a share you trade. It's a business that's actually growing.
Wow.
Other cryptos don't have a business behind them. So why do you invest in them? I take it you do it for trading. I don't do TA or trading. I'm an entrepreneur. I understand business. I look at what is the business case. Who are the customers? Why are they customers? And that, to me, XinFin ticks all those boxes. So yeah, I've been cost averaging for a long time as well. Yeah, it's a long journey. It's a really solid team, solid project. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm an advisor because I chose to be an advisor.
Right.
I had the opportunity to be an advisor. It's how I choose to spend my time to add value as much as possible.
No, that's good. So, David, last question.
Yeah.
And sometimes interviewers that I'm interviewing have an answer. Sometimes they're not. They don't. They're like, "Hey, let's just end it." Is there anything in closing that you would like people to know about you, XinFin, any projects you're working on? I guess I'm just kind of giving you the last word here. So is there anything that maybe you want to say that you're like, oh, I want to say one more thing about this or that?
Look, not really, other than make sure you understand the business case of any crypto. And by doing that, you'll understand a lot more why you probably bought into XinFin to start with. Most people buy because we've heard it from somewhere. Yeah, it's really interesting. In crypto, we tend to buy first and then research. When you buy a car, you'll research for 6 months before you buy a car. But investing money in crypto, people just buy because they heard it, and then they're like, better learn about it. You're in now, learn about it. It's a pretty solid business case and story, so I'll probably end on that.
No, that's
and
good.
And happy to come back in about a month once I've got the article on TradeFinex done and talk more about that in detail.
Okay. Do you know? Thank you, David. Do you know when you write that where you're gonna? Will that be on your let's see, where was the
Medium?
Medium, yeah. It's gonna be on
so
there.
I always start by self-publishing on Medium. What's been great with the hybrid article was it's since been translated into Arabic, Mexican, currently maybe Chinese, we're still talking.
Wow.
And it's been published on about 15 different websites around the world. And that's resulted in several interviews. So the topic of hybrid has got a lot of interest. The interview I did with AltBuzz almost a week and a half ago, that's been downloaded on iTunes over 500 times already. It's been seen on YouTube about 300. I've been told that if we get the views up to about 2,000, then AltBuzz will also start promoting and leveraging that more. So maybe if you put a link to that underneath, the more people that view that, the more AltBuzz will spend money actually promoting the XinFin as well.
Wow.
So that's the benefit. It's there's a lot of people with interest, so it's just allowing them access to it. So I'll start with Medium, and then we'll see where publication goes from there. Okay,
no, that's great, David. So people, XinFin investors, XinFin lovers, there you've got it. David Freuden, XinFin advisor, entrepreneur, investor. David, thank you, and I'll be back with you maybe in about a month to get you back to talk about TradeFinex.
Love to. Thank you very much for your time, guys. Thank you for letting me take the airwaves for a little bit.
Thanks, David. We'll be in touch.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.